Welcome back to It's Erik Nagel. 866-969-1969 is the phone number. And this is really, really cool. I've been thinking about this all week, how awesome this opportunity is that we have right now to talk to the comic book men from AMC's Comic Book Men. Sunday nights, midnight. Why midnight?
It's not my network, man. if it was, the All Ming Chen network, AMC.
Because they got Walking Dead, Better Call Saul. Oh, Talking Dead.
Yes.
And that's why they bumped you to midnight.
And then another Walking Dead. I mean, I think you just answered your own question.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Midnight does well for us, though.
I was going to say, midnight's not a bad spot, though. Especially with all that stuff leading up to it. That's all right.
There's no competition.
Yeah.
Like at midnight, what else is coming on?
Well, I do. Oh, that's right. I do know Kevin does live tweet sometimes because he's up at that time
Right.
for when it airs on midnight.
West Coast.
Right. So he does both. He does the East Coast airing and the West Coast airing.
Does he? I don't watch our show at midnight.
He's in bed.
You're in bed sleeping?
Yeah.
How are you guys doing? We have Walter Flanagan, Bryan Johnson, and Ming Chen here. And you were saying earlier that they were ragging on you on Twitter for you doing tons of radio and they couldn't be bothered with it.
Yeah, well, the ton is like one show, one show a night. That's a ton for me. So apparently that description doesn't fit Bryan Johnson's
So you were
criteria.
over-exaggerating is what it was.
I tend to do that, yes.
He embellished and I called him out on it. Tons of radio, especially when one of the interviews he set up for himself. It's pathetic.
What show did you do?
Something called Geek Hard Radio.
Podcast?
It's a podcast, yes.
Well, you guys are no strangers to the podcast. We tell them Steve Dave does very well.
It does. We almost had Loot Crate as a sponsor, as a matter of fact.
They're jumping on everybody's bandwagon right now, and it's a good thing.
Except apparently tell them Steve Dave. They haven't quite jumped on that bandwagon.
Well, we turned them down.
Because, good on you.
I turned them down. Because,
really?
Yeah, when I saw the stuff, I was like, nobody's going to like this. And I didn't consult my podcast partners. I took it upon myself. And then now they still send us the stuff every month.
Right.
And I feel like I couldn't have been more wrong. And almost every time we have another spot, we end up talking about Loot Crate. So they get pimped regardless if they pay us or not.
We've got a bunch of boxes in the back there. This month's crate was kind of cool. It was the blueprint specs to build Voltron
on
a t-shirt there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And then some 8-bit glasses and everything else was not of my interest. But it was good stuff there.
It's fun. You're right. It is like Christmas. It is like Christmas every month. But we're not here to talk about Loot Crate.
No, we are not. We're here to talk about Comic Book Men. This is the start of the second half of Season 4, right?
Correct, yes.
AMC loves splitting these seasons apart and making you wait. Like, traditional television would tape or film everything, and then you would go straight through except for, like, the holiday breaks. But they would keep going. But AMC will do 8-10 episodes here, and then you wait 6 months before the other comes around again. Now, are you filming all of this at once, or are you actually shooting it like, all right, we're going to shoot 8 episodes, wait, and then shoot the next 8?
Yeah, we shoot all at once. We go from about July until September, so about 2.5, 3 months. Just shoot them all in one shot.
So the whole series is done. They just split it up as far as the airing goes.
Right.
This season, the episode that's coming up this Sunday here involves Adam West.
Yes,
right.
Adam West from your old favorite Batman 1966, the TV show.
You say something which they call you out on, and I really want to talk about it.
What else is new?
But I don't want to give it away. But you said something to Adam West that even as a casual viewer, you would smack their head and go, "What the fuck is wrong with Ming? Why would you say that to Adam West?"
Adam, I don't mean to brag, but I do tons of radio.
Yeah. That's exactly what I said. Yeah, I spoke from the heart. Maybe it wasn't the best thing to say, but.
What did you say? I don't recall.
Yeah, right.
About a certain vehicle being better than another vehicle.
The piece of crap Black Beauty that had like a sticker on the side. It's like one of those magnetic signs that like yard guys like buy and put on their truck.
There's no way that I don't want to talk about it because we don't want to spoil it all, right? But you're a silly man. I'm saying is you're a silly man with silly ideas. No, you are a silly man.
And the thing is, he's an Asian, so he's supposed to respect the design of things, you know. And it's like it looks like it just looks like a box, like when you're little and you put a cardboard box with the strings around your shoulders and then just drive around, you know, pretending you're driving. That's what it looks like.
Well, I think his Asianness he was siding with Kato. I think is really what happened.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right.
That's what happened.
It's not really the car; it's the man who drives it. It's the person behind the wheel of the car.
Yeah.
All right, since we're going to talk about this, according to the storyline, it was said that Ming made connections to get these cars available for what you were planning to do in the episode here. But due to insurance purposes, you couldn't really do what you wanted to do with these cars here. Was this some kind of convention guy that had these cars?
Yes,
Is that where you got them from? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Can they actually accelerate that fast, or were they just there so you can wheel them in and out of the showroom?
I believe they can hit a higher top speed than, say 10 miles an hour.
So the insurance was really that ridiculous to do anything with them on the street?
They may not look like much, but yeah, there was a ton of money being poured into these cars.
Especially the Batmobile. I would think there's a ton of money that goes into making that thing look as good as it does.
The guy with the Batmobile, is it the same guy that has the Batcopter that flies it around in the parking lot at the Meadowlands?
It might sound absurd, but no, that's a different guy.
That's a different dude? With a different Batmobile?
With a different Batmobile, with a different Batcopter. I think there's a guy with a Batboat. I mean, there's people with Bat everything out there.
People like it, but I mean, has it ever been your dream, Walt, to be like, I want to own a replica Batmobile someday? For any reason.
Sure.
I mean, past your 8th birthday. Let me.
At a certain point in my life, I think every red-blooded American boy who grew up at our, in our ages, when we were kids, wanted to have a Batmobile.
Right, and then when you got older, you're like, well, maybe if I slap a Bat Signal sticker on my Prius, it's kind of the same thing.
With Adam West on the episode here and Ming doing what he did, are you familiar with comedian Gilbert Gottfried? He has a podcast of his own, and he talked to Adam West not too long ago. And Adam told a story about being thrown out of an orgy. Have you heard this story?
That was right after we shot the episode. Yeah. Ming and Mike cornered him.
I'm like, sorry.
They didn't want to put out, so they.
We're getting something out of this.
Yeah, listen, you're here for a reason. If you're not going to do, get out.
A race.
We paid to have you here. He was telling a story about him and Frank, the Riddler, Gorshin?
Yeah,
right.
Frank
Him
Gorshin.
and Frank Gorshin were invited to a party. I think it was somewhere, Bel Air or Beverly Hills, one of those ritzy areas. And they were going to the party, but they weren't aware of what kind of party it was. They thought it was just another, high-class Hollywood party. So they go into the mansion, and they go down this set of stairs, that the ones that split off like a circle and wrap around. And as they're walking down, both of them realize that there's an orgy going on. And they just looked at each other and started laughing. But they didn't know what to do, so they started doing their characters. They just, like the Riddler and Batman are talking about seeing this orgy going on, and they're just making fun of people, and security wound up throwing them out of the party.
I didn't hear that story.
No.
he didn't tell us that story.
Yeah, he didn't mention that story on the set of Comic Book Men.
Check out Adam West on the Gilbert Gottfried podcast, because he told the whole story about that and about Cesar Romero having orange slices thrown at his ass by Boy Toys.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, who does
Adam West revealed a lot on that show.
Wow.
How old was he at this orgy?
I don't know.
This way back in the late 60s,
This was
70s?
while the show was still on.
Oh, while it was still on.
Yeah.
Right.
It would have been great if they went in costume thinking it was, we'll just show up as Batman and there's an orgy going on.
Hasn't happened to us yet.
No.
We must not be doing it right.
I would think, luckily, in some regard, I don't know that you'd want to see that at this point. I don't know that Adam West in an orgy at this point in time
Cesar
is...
Romero thing, that's interesting, though.
Yeah.
Well, the orange slices?
Yeah.
What happened in that guy's life that his fetish became like, go on, chuck a tangerine?
866-969-1969 is the phone number here. Do you mind taking a couple calls from people?
Are
here?
the boards lighting up, as they say
They
in the
are.
industry?
Whoa.
Okay.
Drew in Cleveland wants to talk to Walt about Batman. Let's go to Drew. Drew.
Hey, E-Rock.
Hey, how are you?
Guys, good. Hey, I just got into Tell 'em Steve Dave. I love it. And I apologize if you guys have already covered this on Tell 'em Steve Dave. But, Walt, how do you feel about Zack Snyder pulling from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns for the upcoming Batman vs. Superman movie?
Can someone repeat it? What he said?
Oh,
Do you have no headphones?
I thought he had headphones. Could you reiterate the question to him? Let me
I-
get his thing
No,
on.
yeah, I was going to have
There
him
you go.
reiterate it because I missed part. It was the gist of it was, how do you feel about Zack Snyder kind of using Dark Knight for the upcoming Batman versus Superman, kind of using it as his his reference almost.
I mean, how could you not be excited by that? I mean, arguably, The Dark Knight Returns is the greatest Batman story ever told.
Sure.
The finale fight between him and Superman is again, arguably the greatest battle in comic book history. I Zack Snyder, he did The Watchmen too, right?
Correct.
Yes.
I love The Watchmen. I know a lot of people say that they didn't like it, but I love everything he did in The Watchmen. I cannot wait to see what he does with this movie.
Even the Blue Wiener?
I love Blue Wiener. I had the balls to go out and do the Blue Wiener as much as he did. Like, you could have did it once and you would have made me happy, but the fact that he kept throwing it in there, like
unapologetically.
Yes, I applauded that.
I have a concern though. I think that the reason it worked so well in the book is because you really had this
the Blue
kind
Wiener
of
or Dark Knight.
No, Dark Knight. Sorry, the Blue Wiener works wherever you put it, but the Dark Knight works so well in the book is because you really had this history between those two characters that, as a reader, hopefully you understood, right? And you had been
the
reading.
Friendship, right?
And so in the movies, you don't have that. You have the one Superman movie. You have what we're assuming is an older version of Batman, who hasn't met Superman, at least as far as we know. So how do you kind of take, because
there's no history between the two
history.
characters.
So how does any of that have the meaning that it had in the book? Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I totally agree with you that could be a factor in not being as powerful as the Dark Knight fight, but I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to wait for that fight? You're going to do 6 movies?
Of course.
Your problem, Matt.
I'm just wondering how he's going to, if that's what really the path he's going to do, how he's going to really give it that importance. Because that fight really is based on a lot of history that he has to figure out how to really condense to something really specific to get, I think, the effect that you want.
Well, do you think that they're going to become great friends in this movie and then fight, or do you think they're just going to be uneasy allies? I mean,
uneasy allies probably.
From what's been leaked so far, it's Bruce Wayne is in Metropolis during the destruction during Man of Steel, and he's very, and Ben Affleck's very hesitant to even trust him, and that's when that scene where they showed at Comic-Con, where it's the armored bat suit against Superman. It's just it's right out of Frank Miller's, and I'm sorry, I'm really geeking out that I get to talk to you guys.
Take a breath.
And this, like Kevin Smith, this is the book that got me back into comics.
The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong using that as some of your inspiration in that movie. I mean, if he didn't, I think a lot of people would have been a little bit disappointed if you don't see the bat armor.
Sure.
In that final scene of that, and there's got to be. He's got to. I mean, is there going to be? Will he go to Lex Luthor? Where is he getting the kryptonite from? There's so many answers. So many questions still to be answered. Right, Bryan?
Oh, I'm edge of my seat. I'm about to fall forward.
Are you awake over there?
My teeth.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling. Drew, do you have PlayStation?
No, I have Xbox.
You have Xbox? All right, I'm going to put you on hold here. I'm going to give you a copy of Evolve.
Okay.
All right, from our friends at 2K Games and Turtle Rock Studios. Evolve is out right now. I'm going to put you on hold. You got that. What do you think, being big Batman guys, what do you think of Gotham?
I have PlayStation.
We'll talk later, Bryan.
It's different. I mean, my mom loves it, and she's not into comic books. She just keeps calling me after it's over and being like, "Have you watched Gotham? Did you watch Gotham?" I'm like, "No, I have it on my DVR."
Just get poser click.
So I gotta be honest. I've only seen a couple episodes, but it's very. I love the style of it. I love the look of it visually. I dig it. But I got to admit that it was on Monday nights, and I know this is crazy, but Monday Night Football was on, so I always forgot about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What got your mom into it?
Did you also forget that there's a such thing as a DVR?
Yeah, what got your mom into it? She's not say the target.
She got me into comics when I was
This dude
little.
exists in the way he does because of his mom. I mean, going way back, really fostered your interest in comics, right?
Yeah, she introduced me to comics, even though she didn't really read them, but she was a big proponent of comic books. So when she saw Gotham, and she doesn't have cable, so it's on Fox.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's go.
And she's not into football, so
that's just for my mom would never call me like, you see Gotham.
Or she might not just call you at all.
Yeah, well, okay, there is that.
We have a call from Tom in California. He has a question about some old comic books for the comic book guys. Tom?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's your question?
Well, I was given some really small comic books from a very old friend of mine, and I think they call them 8-pagers, but they're actually pornography. I didn't know if they were worth anything. I've never thrown them away.
So little pornographic comics.
I know. What do you mean you think they're pornography? Are they either they are or they aren't?
Maybe it's a flip book.
They are very pornographic. They're very pornographic. I think they call them 8-pagers because it's about 8 pagers. There's like naughty nerves when the sailor.
Think you could
home.
last through an 8-pager?
No, man. Two at most.
Are there any stories involving orange slices? Because we may have a buyer for you.
Right. Right. How much you want for those 8-pagers? So that's one.
Have you ever heard of such a thing, Walt?
I mean, there's comic books have always had a history of dabbling, in the pornographic areas. Cherry Pop Tart.
You R. Crumb type stuff.
I mean, so is there a big market for pornographic comics? I don't think so. You got to find that right collector, and I'm not interested.
They're
in
usually in jail.
Tom, what do you have, Xbox or PlayStation?
Oh, I think my kid's got Xbox.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to give you a copy of Evolve from 2K Games and Turtle Rock Studios, and I think he'll enjoy it. Hang on there. Got to talk to you about the news this week with Spider-Man. What are your thoughts on this whole deal with Sony and Marvel?
I think it's great. My first thought was like, all right, how much is Sony getting paid by Marvel? How much money are they going to get to use their character?
Oh, is this where they're letting Spider-Man be one of the Avengers?
Yeah, to cross over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm like, it's got to be like in the millions or billions free. Yeah. They're letting them use it for free, and this is why. So, Spidey's going to jump into the Marvel Universe. Sony's also going to make their own Spider-Man movie. So letting them put him in the Marvel Universe, it's a big commercial for their own Spider-Man movie that they'll eventually release.
But they have to use the character that Marvel uses. The actor that they use for Spider-Man in the Marvel movies has to be the same one they use for the Sony standalone,
so he'll
right?
get a nice payday, yes. But
I don't know.
But
Something seems a little weird about this
deal. But for the rights, there's no money being changed hands, and I think it's brilliant. It's like a free commercial. Everybody wins. But us, the fans, most importantly.
Have they said how long? Is it a cameo, or is he in the full movie?
They haven't said, but I mean...
apparently, from what I can tell, he's going to be fully in Civil War, which makes sense because, Peter Parker is a pretty big part of the Civil War storyline. But I think he might have a cameo somewhere before that. I don't know if they're going to try to, retcon him into something that's already happened. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's really weird.
How could you be skeptical of this? What on earth would make you not excited that
I am excited, but I don't think Sony's going to have this property much longer. We were talking about it in the car here that even though they've come to some kind of deal, and after the whole thing with the interview and some other stuff going on with Sony, they forced their people to go back into the boardroom with Disney and Marvel there to make something happen. So Sony comes off a little bit desperate with this, and even though there's profit sharing and they get to maintain creative...
they have final creative control is what the agreement says.
I think that's just what they're saying now, but I think within a couple years, Disney's going to get complete ownership away from Sony. There's something they're not telling us here with this deal.
That's a good thing that Disney gets
a great thing,
back.
yeah.
Because Sony... consistently, there's been 5 movies so far, right? 5, yeah, 5 movies, and each one I think has done worse than the one before, financially. And they've really bastardized the character. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. They have really bastardized that character. There's certain things that are really good, and there are certain things that are not. Marvel getting him back is pretty exciting. And then of course the big question this week is which version of Spider-Man are they going to use?
What is the one that everyone thinks is going to happen?
Miles Morales, which is the ultimate Spider-Man. And in no logical universe are they going to use Miles Morales. It would be the worst business decision ever, in my opinion.
Why is that?
That's his theory.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because,
I love this dude. He's so cynical about everything. I love you, man.
Because I think Peter Parker is the iconic version of the character. I think Peter Parker's wit would go great toe-to-toe with Tony Stark. I think the
Miles can crack a couple jokes. He's been known to.
He doesn't have the same. And I like Miles Morales. I just don't. I don't see them starting with Miles Morales. No. Maybe they start with Peter Parker and at some point end up with Miles Morales. But I don't see.
Can I ask you a question? Is Miles Morales a real person or a character? I don't know who the hell you're talking about.
In Ultimate Spider-Man, he is Peter Parker dies, and this kid kind of gets powers similar to Spider-Man's, but not entirely. And he takes on the Spider-Man persona with a different costume, and he's got some different abilities. And
there's something going on with that Miles Morales because they are not letting that go. The Ultimate Universe, even though it's not doing that well, I don't think. But they are not willing to let that go, and they keep pushing it. So there may be something there to why they are refusing just to let that line go away.
I think that Miles Morales is going to join the main Marvel universe after Secret Wars.
Yeah.
They'll give him a different name. They won't call him Spider-Man anymore because Peter Parker is still around. They'll figure out something else to call him. But I think he'll be one of the fallouts from Secret Wars that'll join the main Marvel universe when the rest of the Ultimate Universe starts to fall off.
What do you think is going to be bigger, Convergence or Secret Wars? Or Secret War, or whatever.
I don't feel good about either one.
More?
Eric, do you not have a snoring sound effect that we can play?
Brian and I are just looking at each other like, still awake? Yeah, I'm here.
I see these buttons in front of me, and I see, like, dump. I'm just pressing it like crazy. It's
One's the trapdoor under Ming.
Oh, really? All right.
Oh, like Austin Powers. I'm just going to go backwards into
Ming's
the fire
just taking
pit.
notes for I Saw Comics.
I am, yeah, thank you.
I should talk about this on my podcast.
I did talk about this.
This is the way it's really done.
I did talk about this on my podcast. I Saw Comics.
Points about what I had for dinner.
Thank you very
3
much.
weeks ago.
I did talk about Convergence versus Secret Wars. Thank
Comic
you very
book
much.
men on AMC Sunday nights at midnight.